Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in July. I have all of my statistics on how many books I read. I read 10 books in July. 2 of them were fantasy, sci-fi, 4 were romance, and 4 were just literary fiction. And the amount of pages that I read was 4,099 pages. Pretty good. I feel like I had a good variety of genres. The first book I read in July was Reckless by Lauren Roberts, and I feel like I talked about this one a lot in my Taylor Swift Chooses the Books I Read video, so I won't talk about it too much, but this is a sequel to Powerless. If you watch my Taylor Swift video, then you know it's kind of disappointing. I've seen videos of people saying that Lauren Roberts said this is kind of a filler book to get you to the third one. So I guess that makes sense as to why it wasn't very plot heavy. But I feel like it was kind of like a waste of a book, and I feel bad saying that, but I feel like it could have just been like a novella or, you know, a lot shorter than it actually was. I feel like the Powerless series could have just been a duology instead of dragging it out with this book to make it a trilogy, if you know what I mean. So this one was just not as plot driven and basically was just Kai and Peyton bickering the entire time. That was literally it. The plot didn't advance until the very end, which obviously gets you hooked for the third book. But this one was disappointing for me. I originally gave it 4 stars, but I think I'm gonna lower it to 3.75 because the thing about my ratings recently is I feel like I've just given things, I've noticed that I give books the same rating, but I feel like they're on different levels within their rating, if that makes sense. I don't think this is a true 4-star compared to other books I've given 4 stars, but I don't think it's like a 3. So that's why I settled on 3.75 for this one. Then the next book that I read was Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This one was I'm thinking it's a sci-fi fantasy. I'm not really sure. Because it's almost like a dystopian type book where it's like normal life, but they have prodigies who have special powers that are basically like superheroes that protect the town, and the main girl is on the villain's side, which took me a long time to understand that. But if I had read the beginning, it tells you who they are, so that would have helped if I had read that originally to distinguish between the two opposing sides. But basically Nova infiltrates the renegades, who are the good guys, the superheroes that protect the town, to bring them down. And she's kind of throughout the book torn between the two sides, because obviously one side is good and one side's bad. So I really enjoyed it. It's a thick book, but I feel like this one wasn't too much of a plot superhero type. It was more character driven, and I think I really enjoyed that about this book, and I gave this one 4 stars. And the next one that I read is Before I Do by Sophie Cousins. I'm not sure how to say her last name, but this one's about a girl who's about to marry a great guy. They have a healthy, stable relationship. Everything about it's perfect. You know, it's easy. And then the night before her wedding, a guy from years ago in her past shows up as someone else's date to her wedding, and she's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What if I'm not supposed to marry this guy? So it's kind of thrown her through a loop, and she's doubting all the decisions that she's made since meeting this guy, and they only knew each other for 1 day. This was also in my Taylor Swift video. I don't like those type of tropes where the characters only knew each other for 1 day, and then years later they are still hung up on that person, and they kind of they're with other people, or gone different paths, and then they see them again, and it makes them rethink their entire life. As I said, that's not my favorite trope in a book, so I didn't really enjoy that aspect of the book. And then especially to get to the ending, it was just very anticlimactic. But I did give this one 3 stars because it was easy to read and all that stuff. It's just not my favorite trope. Then the next one I read is A Photo Finish by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in her Gold Rush Ranch series. I actually read it on my Kindle, and I just picked up the physical copy because they're all being republished with these new covers, and the third one's not out physically yet, but I've been reading them on my Kindle, and this one was about Violet Eaton, who is a sister of the Eaton brothers from the Chestnut Spring series, and the brother from the first book in the series, On a Horse Ranch. I did enjoy this one more than the first one. I really like Cole and Violet's chemistry, and I don't know, I just liked their relationship more than the first. I always love Elsie Silver's series, her small town, ranch, cowboy, whatever you want to call it, books. I eat it up every single time. I think I gave this one 4 stars. Oh, I gave it 3 stars. I think I'll change my rating to maybe 3.75 or a 4 because I enjoyed it more than the first one. The first one I gave 3 stars. But I think this is a more of a 4-star book because I just really liked the characters in this one and the plot. Then the next book I picked up was The Roughest Draft by Emily Liberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. I also don't know how to say this last name, but this was co-written by a husband and wife, and it's about 2 people who co-write books together who also had a romance, which I thought was very interesting. So I feel like you could probably see like the authors like putting themselves into the characters in this book, which I think is really interesting. And this one's about two co-writers who wrote like an amazing book. Everyone loves it, and they're supposed to write another one, but they had a falling out that makes them not speak for years, and they still have a contract for 2 books, so they still need to write 1 more book. So then they finally agree to do that, and they're kind of like working through their past feelings and like what happened while they're writing. And I think it was just really interesting to see their chemistry when writing a book. Like, they're literally amazing together, not in just that aspect, but like in a relationship also, like personally, not just professionally. They just worked really well, and I liked their dynamic. And I had this on my TBR for so long. I can't believe it took me that long to read it. And I read this all in one day, I think, just because I could not put it down. And this one I did give 4 stars, I think. Yeah, 4 stars. Next, I read The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This one, the genre of this one confuses me because on Book of the Month, when it tells you the genres of the books that you're picking out, this one said literary thriller. So, kind of a fiction, or I think it said literary fiction, but it's more like a thriller mystery. I don't get the literary aspect of it. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that, so I could just be saying random things. But this was more like a thriller to me, just straight up thriller. It's about a girl that goes missing at this summer camp where her brother went missing 14 years ago. I think it was 14. Yeah, 14 years ago, and like they never found him. And then she goes missing, and it's told through multiple perspectives of like the campers, the counselors, the parents, other people on the property. And like the mom had something wrong with him. Like it goes back and forth between like the past and present, and like some characters, and I'm like, I don't feel like we needed to know their backstory to like move the plot along. So I didn't like that aspect of it. And when you find out like what really happened, I was like, oh, that's predictable. Like I kind of knew this based off of like the other perspectives, which I guess is why the author included those. I just feel like there were some perspectives that just weren't essential to the plot. So I think if it was a little bit shorter, it didn't need to be this long. This was like almost 500 pages. Yeah, like 450. It did not need to be this long. I think it could have been half this much. It could have been half this size and would have been a lot better. So I did give this one 3 stars. And then I found one of my new favorite books, the first 5-star of the month, and this is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. And this one's about a school teacher aide, or like a teacher aide, who is trying to adopt one of her previous students who has like a bad home life, or like, well, he's taken care of. He has a foster parent, but he just isn't giving the attention that he needs, and you know, she doesn't have a great job to adopt him or the money. And her and the student have connected over this children's series of books that she loved when she was a child. and almost like the Magic Treehouse books is how I imagine them to be. And the author of this series hasn't written a book in years, and he finally writes one because there's only one manuscript in existence. So he invites 5 or 4 people that he knew as kids that would come to his house, like runaways, and the teacher, the main character in this one, was one of those kids, to compete in like these riddle type competitions for the manuscript. And then once they win, they can do whatever they want with it. Like, they could sell it to a publisher to make money. So she goes to do that so she can make money, so she can adopt the kid in this. And if none of the people win, by the time that when the time is up, then a publisher just gets the book. I really liked the concept of this book. It like flew by. I probably read this in a day also. And the quotes in this were just so good, and like the end had me feeling like, I don't know, it was a good ending. It just made me really happy and gave me those good feelings, you know. So this was a 5-star. And then finally, after months, I don't even know how long I was reading this book. What does it say on here? I know it took me more than 2 weeks to read this book. It's The 5-Star Weekend by Ellen Hildebrand, and this was my first book by her. And I really wanted to get into her books in the summer because they're great summer reads, I think, like her Nantucket series and stuff. But this one, I just wasn't like intrigued by the plot enough. This one's told in different people's perspectives. It's about a food blogger whose husband has recently died, and she sees this thing where this other woman did, where she invited her like 5 different people or 4 different people from different eras of her life, like her 20s, childhood, you know, adulthood, whatever, for the 5-star weekend where they just hang out and do like fun stuff. And she had her daughter like document the entire thing, and like past romances come up, and it was basically just a literary fiction. But I just wasn't intrigued by the plot or the characters. Like, they weren't very likable. So that's why it took me so long to do it. I eventually just like listened to it on audio one day just so I could get it out of the way. And I did give this one 2 stars. But I still want to read other books by her. I think this one was just not, I just did not read this at the right time. So I still want to give her other books a chance. Just this one was not for me. And then I read Meg Schaefer's newest release, The Lost Story. When I got in this, I was like, I should read this right after reading The Wishing Game because The Wishing Game was so good. And this one's a Narnia retelling, like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where these 2 boys went missing in the woods a while, like 15 years ago, and they come back like months later, and like nobody knows where they were at all. And then in the present day, this girl's sister has been missing like since she was a child, but she was adopted into another family, so they didn't really grow up knowing each other. But she found out she had a sister, so she's trying to find her. And one of the guys that went missing specializes in finding missing people, specifically girls. He agrees to help her. The 2 boys that went missing know where the missing girl is, so they take her back to where the forest where they got lost, and you find out all these things. You're in this magical world. I classified this one, I put this one in the literary fiction section, but I think it's like magical realism, and I really liked the quotes in this one too. I think I gave this one 5 stars too. I did. I gave this another 5-star. So good. Meg Schaefer, new favorite author. And then I think after that I was in a book slump because nothing sounded good to me at all. Like, I could not pick anything up. Then I started Beach Cute by Beth Reekles, the author of The Kissing Booth, and this one's like a YA fiction story. It's not really a romance. There is some romance, but I think it's just more fiction about these 3 girls going to a resort in Spain, like a vacation, and they're all going for different reasons. Like, one broke up with their boyfriend, one's having trouble in school, one's trying to become a social media influencer and like struggling, like telling her parents that instead of wanting to go to school. but really the girls aren't very good. Like, they're not likable people, the characters, and you get each one's perspective. And the girl who wants to be an influencer is like obsessed with social media. Like, she cannot be without her phone, and that's the thing about the resort that they're at. It's a device-free resort, so they have to turn in their phones when they get there, which I thought was a crazy concept. I've never heard of that. I wonder if that actually exists. I don't know. But I thought that was weird, first of all, and then second of all, they couldn't even live. Like, I feel like they were throwing tantrums because they could not have their phone. I would think I would be fine, because they both brought books. Like, I could sit there and just read books all day, every day. I don't need my phone. So I guess I didn't relate to that aspect of the book is why I didn't enjoy most of it, because I feel like that was like the main plot, is that they don't have their phone and they can't live without it. And there is like little romance plots, and then they end up becoming friends at the end, obviously. It was just, they're just annoying. And I feel like I was just reading it. I didn't want to put it down. Like, I didn't want to DNF it because I had gotten like 100 pages in, and I'm like, I just want to keep going. So I did end up skimming it, and it was just not good. So I did give this one star because I did not enjoy it at all. And then that put me in a book slump for the rest of the month. Like, I finished this one. I finished Beach Cute on July 21st, and then I didn't read for the rest of July. I did not finish a book for 10 days, which is ridiculous. I actually didn't finish a book until yesterday, so it was more than 10 days. So I think I'm out of my slump now, though. Those were all the books that I read in July. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments what you thought of them, and hopefully I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!